question, and then I will recognize you. Or you may raise your hand using the button on the toolbar to make a public comment. Okay, with that, let's start with item number 2, approval of the meeting minutes from the June 3rd, 2020 meeting. If a member of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand now.
There are no member comments for this item.
Okay, seeing none, if there are any management committee member comments, please turn on your camera. Okay, can I get a motion?
Ray Sweeney, I'll make the motion.
And can we get a second?
Roxana Kennedy, I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second, and can we get a vote?
Carlsbad Police Department, Chair Chief Neil Gallucci.
Yes.
Chula Vista Police Department, Vice Chair Chief Roxana Kennedy.
Yes.
Coronado Police Department, Captain Jesus Ochoa.
Yes.
El Cajon Police Department, Captain Rob Bransweiler.
Yes.
Escondido Police Department, Chief Ed Varso.
Yes.
La Mesa Police Department, Captain Ray Sweeney.
Yes.
National City Police Department, Captain Graham Young.
Yes.
Oceanside Police Department, Chief Frank McCoy. Chief Frank McCoy absent. San Diego County District Attorney, Assistant Chief Investigator Joe Cargill.
Yes.
San Diego County Probation Department, Chief Deputy Denise Huffins. Deputy Chief Denise Huffins is absent. San Diego Harbor Police Department, Chief Mark Stainbrook.
Yes.
San Diego Police Department, Assistant Chief Sandra Albrechtsen.
Yes.
San Diego County Sheriff's Department, Assistant Sheriff Kelly Martinez. Assistant Sheriff Kelly Martinez.
Yes.
This motion passes with those members present.
Okay. Item number 3 on our agenda today is public and member comments regarding any issues within the jurisdiction of Sandag that is not on this agenda. If a member of the public would like to comment, please raise your hand. Not seeing any. Moving on from public comments, would any management committee member like to offer any comments?
Chief Gallucci, I do have a quick comment and an update. If I may.
Okay. Go ahead, Craig.
Thank you. In the past, I've mentioned that as we move forward, we're looking at cost models and how to be most efficient and effective with ARJIS. I'm in the process right now of looking at a cost model for all of our partners. We had several different things happening this year with software and hardware increases, as well as some other increases in staff that we've had. And we're looking, maybe, I tried to look back, it's been over 20 years since we've had anything where we pushed any type of a cost increase to our members. I'm asking that the committee assign a couple of individuals, potentially from the seconds, to assist me with that cost model to determine if we have a need for any changes in cost, if at all.
Okay, I think that's a fair request, and I would be happy to talk about that today at the Chiefs and Sheriffs meeting, which is held after this meeting, and we'll get back to you on that. I don't think we need a vote on that, do we?
No, so just asking for consideration.
Yeah, happy to discuss it today at the Chiefs and Sheriffs meeting.
Thank you.
Got it. Okay, moving on to item number 4. On our agenda is a report on the Public Safety Committee's meeting held on June 19, 2020, July 17, 2020, and August 21, 2020. I'll be giving this report. June 19, 2020, the PSC approved the San Diego State University Police Department to become a contributing member of the ARJIS. SANDAG Director of Research and Program Management, Dr. Burke, presented an overview of a new criminal justice evaluation that has been added to the FY 2020 program budget due to new grant funding. Dr. Burke also reviewed the 40 years of crime in the San Diego region. Caltrans presented an overview of the new Otay Mesa East Port of Entry, including features and timelines. July 17, 2020. Dr. Burke presents an overview of a recently released criminal justice clearinghouse report on the characteristics of crime victims and suspects. Carlsbad Assistant Chief Mickey Williams presented an overview of the new regional de-escalation protocol developed by local law enforcement agencies. August 21, 2020. San Diego County Probation Department provided a status of probation supervision for adults, juveniles in San Diego County. The next Public Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for Friday, September 18, 2020 at 1 p.m. Are there any comments from members of the public on this report?
No hands raised at this time.
Are there any Management Committee members' comments? If none, moving on to item number 5. Item number 5 on our agenda is an update on the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS. Craig Carter will be presenting this item. Craig?
Thank you, Chair. Just a little bit of a recap, as most of you know, that the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS, is something we're required to report January of 2021. With that information, currently we use the UCR, and we put that information through with a little bit of information that you'll see on the next slide. It talks about what one and the other do. NIBRS versus that summary reporting. Currently, what we have is we push monthly reports to state and federal governments. There's about 10 offense classification or crime categories that are pushed over on that information. 1 charge reported per incident, which is typically the highest charge only. And then there are 6 data fields or pieces of information sent on each crime, and the highest charge only. So you can imagine that on any given crime, if you look at the left side column, that there's not a lot of information that's being pushed over, and so therefore it's not really conducive to great research. So as we transition to the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS, we're going to go from 12 monthly reports sent to the state and federal government to 1,000 plus. And 1 for each one of those crime cases. And we're going to go from 10 offense classifications or crime categories to 52, and 1 reported charge per incident to up to 10. Those will all be in the NIBRS charges. And then the 6 data fields that we currently are doing, we're going to up that to 58 pieces of information sent on each crime. It goes with weapons and relationships and motives. So when we start talking about research and we try to figure out crime trends and where law enforcement needs to put their emphasis based on real-time trends, the NIBRS reporting will be extremely helpful for our crime analysis individuals, as well as how we deploy individuals through the departments. This is something that we took on as ARJIS for a regional effort over 2 years ago. The process was lengthy and rather time-consuming, and several members of ARJIS have been working on this nonstop. The idea is to be able to push all the NIBRS information by the deadline of January of 2021. I'm happy to report that ARJIS and San Diego County regional law enforcement efforts have been certified from NIBRS, so that we can start directly reporting our information as soon as January of 2021. This information is, the way that we did it has been cost effective for our region, because if we didn't do it as ARJIS and allow each agency's data to run through ARJIS, every agency would have to self-certify. So we were able to save a lot of money for the region in order to let that happen. We are the first in the state of California to be able to be NIBRS certified. It'll also keep our crime data very clean and accurate. And we have a quote at the bottom of this from Derma from FBI, and she says that, "Congratulations, you're trailblazers for the state of California," meaning we're the first ones. And now any agency that runs their data through ARJIS will also be NIBRS certified. So you can imagine the amount of time and effort that we've saved for other agencies to get that through. The next slide, just as a brief overview of what just 1 month's work that we have. When individual agencies submit their data through ARJIS, we vet that information and then send it through NIBRS, and they send us back some warnings and corrections. And you can see the 99% for the most of the entire region in what data is being sent. Those months accumulated all the way through till 2 weeks ago when we received our letter from the FBI stating that we are NIBRS certified. Each chief and an individual from your agency will receive a personal letter that says that you're NIBRS certified. That could be important for future funding in federal grants. So I'm very proud of our organization, something that they've been working on for over a couple of years, and it's been a high priority for our region. So very proud of this group for putting that together, and the first in the state of California. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Craig. Are there any comments from the members of the public on this item?
No hand raised at this time.
Thank you. Now we'll go to management committee member comments. And I had a question, Craig. So now that everything's up and running and we're certified, is there going to be a significant stress on ARJIS staff due to the monthly reporting requirements, or is it an electronic solution, and how's that going to work?
Yeah, so it is electronic solution. It's a lot of the behind the scenes that'll be happening. There's several different vetting processes that'll go through in order to make sure that data is clean as it's pushed through NIBRS over to the FBI. Where it's becoming a little bit of an issue for us, or might in the potential, is that there's a state of California CYBRS as well that's going to come forward, and those two have to meet and communicate. We also have a piece that we're dealing with our net RMS. All in all, we should be fine, but we're waiting for the state to finish their charge tables and making sure that the NIBRS and the state's equivalent of NIBRS is communicating accurately, and so we can push that data correctly. Okay,
appreciate that. And thank you for all the work from ARJIS staff to get us up and running on this. I think it's phenomenal, actually, and it's going to really increase our effectiveness in the region, I believe. So are there any other management committee member comments? Okay, seeing that, let's move on to item number 6. On our agenda is the Regional Law Enforcement Software Update. First, I'd like to ask Craig Carter to introduce this item and the presenters.
Thank you, Chair. This item is going to talk a little bit about COPLink and some future items that we'll bring forward to this committee. It's a product from Forensic Logic. On the line also is Yosh from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, Chief Information Officer, and he'll help if there's any technical questions. But also we are working together with the Sheriff's Department to submit a Department of Justice letter requesting to take this particular product to the cloud. And I'll cover that briefly, and Yosh will jump in if I get something wrong or if he wants to add to it. We'll finish off with an update from the Sheriff's Department as well on the fingerprint readers that we put in as a priority for the UASI funding. So we'll talk about that as well. And just a little bit of an update on COPLink is the next slide will show you, out of all the products that ARJIS uses, COPLink has in 2019 and the same for 2020, I'm sure that's trending, is it has a lot of queries, of 566,000 queries. And what that basically allows is our law enforcement professionals to search in an expansive interagency database that can lead to suspect arrest or help close a case. COPLink is moving to NLET, which is the National Law Enforcement Telecommunications System, cloud service. And that cloud service, which has the same place where ARJIS is already hosting their data, that'll take place in the future, and eventually they'll stop the on-prem housing of that data. So what we're asking for is this committee to authorize, and in the form of a motion, for us to move to the cloud with COPLink X. That will change a lot of what we do in how we do our research, but it'll also let other agencies throughout Nevada and Arizona who are already on CopLink X have our information as well. So it'll become a force multiplier, if you will. Can we go, if we can go one more slide, you'll see the data coverage on those that are on Forensic Logic currently, and then the new data and the way that it's going to come as we go through the CopLink X. There is Orange County, San Francisco, and South Bay that are also on CopLink X at this point. Our current contract with CopLink is up in September 30th, and the idea would be to transition to the cloud. Where this becomes a bit of an issue, and it's certainly important for us to bring forward to the management group, is that CopLink X will require a waiver, if you will, from the Department of Justice in order for us to utilize the cloud for this. Several agencies throughout the state of California have submitted their application to DOJ and since 2018 and are still waiting a response. It's our understanding that what happens is you transition to the cloud, and then at some point in the future, when we get an audit, they'll talk about how we did it and making sure that it was done safely. And NLETS is one of those certified safe locations. Yosh and his team has helped in looking at how the back-end security is as it relates to our data and how it relates to that on the CopLink X through the NLETS servers. So his team has taken a look at their Forensic Logic security and making sure that it is compliant as we move forward. With that information, I'm asking that there be a motion to allow ARJIS to update the current CLETS application to request approval to move to the region's CopLink X data to NLETS Cloud and transition to CopLink X, while at the same time renewing our contract with Forensic Logic to utilize CopLink X. With that, I'd ask Yosh to chime in if he has anything else he'd like to add.
I don't have anything else to add unless there are any questions on this. You covered everything, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any members from the public on this item?
No hands raised for this item.
So I do have one request on this one, Craig, and that is if you have time, could you log into the Chiefs and Sheriffs meeting this afternoon and update everybody on this, because it's technically, I'd be technically challenged to explain it. So I think you'd do a much better job.
I can do that.
Awesome, that would help. Are there any other management committee member comments on this? Seeing none, Chief Kennedy, would you be able to send Craig the link to log into the meeting this afternoon?
And Chief Galucci, I am looking for a motion to
Oh, I'm sorry. That's correct.
And move to CopLink X in the cloud.
Okay. Can I get a motion? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is Rox. I'll make the motion, and I'll also invite Craig.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Just need a name for the second. Anyone?
Robert Answeiler, El Cajon.
Thank you. And can we get a vote?
Carlsbad Police Department, Chair
Yeah.
Chief Neil.
sorry.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Chula Vista Police Department, Vice Chair Chief Roxana Kennedy.
Yes.
Coronado Police Department, Captain Jesus Ochoa.
Yes.
El Cajon Police Department, Captain Rob Ranswiller.
Yes.
Escondido Police Department, Chief Ed Varso.
Yes.
La Mesa Police Department, Captain Bray Sweeney.
Yes.
National City Police Department, Captain Graham Young.
Yes.
Oceanside Police Department, Chief Frank McCoy. Absent. San Diego County District Attorney, Assistant Chief Investigator Joe Cargill.
Yes.
San Diego County Probation Department, Deputy Chief Denise Huffins is absent. San Diego Harbor Police Department, Chief Mark Stainbrook.
Yes.
San Diego Police Department Assistant Chief Sandra Albrechtsen.
Yes.
San Diego County Sheriff's Department Assistant Chief Sheriff Kelly Martinez.
Yes.
This motion passes with all members present.
Okay, thank you.
Lucci, before you move on to the next item, I wanted to ask Yosh if you could do an update on the fingerprint readers. As
Sure,
you,
absolutely.
we've had some UASI funding that's been allocated, and just to get an update on that.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. As of right now, we are working with ARJIS and the vendor to ensure that all the fingerprint readers and necessary software and systems are in compliance with DOJ requirement, so that as we scale out the deployment of it, we're in fully compliance with the DOJ requirement. The vendor has statement of work in front of us that we're going through and making the necessary adjustments. As that completes, we can circle back with the group and provide another update.
Okay, great. Thanks, Yosh. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on to item number 7 on our agenda. It's an update on the Urban Area Security Initiative, or UASI funded e-citations and desktop experience, or DEX projects. ARJIS staff member Katie Mugg and ARJIS staff members Katie Mugg and Lloyd Munzer, along with Chief Innovation Officer Eric Wood from Chula Vista PD, will be presenting.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to introduce this item and then turn it over to Craig and Lloyd to provide the full update. To the next slide, please. So just as a reminder, because UASI is coming up, I wanted to advise you, I spoke with OHS last week, and it looks like we're going to be scheduling the first law enforcement committee meeting towards the end of September. I'm not sure if it will be LeMay and Captain Sweeney and I doing this, or which agency. I love Captain Sweeney, so it would be great if it was him. But if not, that's but as a reminder, as a reminder, we have ARJIS has benefited from the UASI funding over the years for mobile. That's how we've been cutting edge and the leader all the way back from 2004 until 2019, because we did get the fingerprint money, the fingerprint reader funding. So we had a little bit of delays for 2018 funding, just of our changes at our organization. But we are moving forward with both e-citations and DEX projects. Actually made significant progress in the past 2 months. So with that, I will turn it over. Can you go to the next slide? I will turn it over to Chief Carter or Lloyd to just give a high-level overview of what we're going to do with e-sites, and then we'll little out DEX and how we've reallocated funding to your agencies. Eric Wood will provide an update on the work that Chula Vista has been doing.
Thank you, Katie. On the e-site is something that we brought up years ago as well, to talk about maybe looking at whether or not there's interest. We did get information that there was interest, and we had received UASI fundings to develop a project that would look at it, determine its viability. Currently, there are several agencies in the county that are using some type of a e-site software, usually on their ARJIS phones, and how they're working that through the courts. Next slide, please. So in January of this year, the group got together, the mobile group got together and talked about maybe looking at a group purchase, if you will, for an e-site type application. And it was determined at that point that we should consider doing our own application and having it similar to the current FI that we push out through ARJIS. Next slide, please. So the way that we envision this through ARJIS is that we kind of put it into 3 different phases. The first phase is develop that simple mobile application, accessible with surfers, mobile, and collect that data and print a copy for the violator and for records. The idea being that you could scan the driver's license or identification card and it would auto-populate. And when you have a change of address or somewhere else, you could actually change it within the program to match that. You then print a copy for the violator and another copy for your records. So that's our phase 1. And we have already now that proof of concept that's in place, and we'll get that to some individuals to test for us. The second phase was building that back end user face and uploading that information from the field to our records. And then that third phase would be utilizing a court interface, which is making sure that all the court required fonts and dates and all requirements that they have, even to the extent that the size of the citation is correct for the courts. That'll be our phase 3 piece. Next slide, please. So if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see the area in black there. And if the agency opts into the ARJIS eSite application, then they'll have access to the eSite through this box right here. If the agency decides that they want to stay with an outside vendor or another group, then they will not be activated. So you would have officers that would not have access to it. Next slide, please. So the activity screen, basically it looks very similar to what you would see in a citation. You fill out the information based on either scanned ID or driver's license, auto-populates. You can change that in the screen if you need to. Next slide. And then the violator screen, again, puts the critical information in there, all about the information about the individual being stopped or the traffic stop in this case. You could actually upload other information as necessary. We're trying to make sure it's as user-friendly as possible. Keeping in mind, it's not always a citation about just a traffic violation. It might be some other type of a muni code. So we're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible for the entire city projects, not just traffic. Next slide, please. The vehicle screen, obviously, it's very similar. It'll talk about what the vehicle VIN information and color and look of the vehicle. Could even take a photo of it and put that in there as well for your court in the future. Next screen. And then the note screen, as we have typically on the back side of our citations, write a note or an addendum. This is the same thing that can happen here. It can have information about the defendant or the vehicle and any information else that you want to capture for court records later. Next screen. So with that information, we're pushing this out to a select group to test. We'll let each agency determine what they want to do, but the proof of concept is there. We have now what we consider to be a working copy. The idea getting to the final phase 3, which would be to make sure that it gets through supervisor approval, through the records, and all to the courts as quickly as possible with as least amount of errors as possible. We all know that the citations sometimes are very difficult to read with the writing and the way that we're in the field and in a hurry. With this product, we could probably decrease our errors by drastically, because it's much easier to read. The courts would have an easier time reading it, and so would the defendant on this case. So it's been an interesting project. When we first took that over, we kind of thought it would look a lot like the FI mobile app that we have. So it'll be friendly to those officers that are using it now. So more to come on that, but we're still progressing as a part of what we asked for in the UASI funding. Lloyd, anything I missed on that?
No, very well spoken. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to move or transition. I guess I can ask if there's any questions, Chair, on that particular item.
Sure. Any questions from committee members?
Graham Young from National City Police Department.
Hey, Graham.
Do you have to use the equipment of the desktop experience, the DEX, in order to do this, or is there another?
It's the ARJIS mobile device
Yeah.
used on that device. So they're totally different process.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
All right.
Craig,
Yes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to move to the desktop experience unless there's questions.
I think I heard somebody asking a question. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead, Craig.
All right, and the next piece is just an update on UASI funding for DEX equipment. And I'm gonna toss this to our team, but also Eric Wood will give us an update. But what I asked that the chiefs and the group on this call understand that this was UASI funding, and that we'll talk about the reallocation of the funding to the agencies that you see listed here. We want you to be able to test this smart device that can go both in the vehicle as well as in the station. It's that one-stop shop for a small computer, if you will. But we're asking that you pick individuals at your agency that can test that and be critical, because this is either going to be the future within the next 6 months, or it's going to be the future in the next couple of years. So I don't think we're going to be avoiding it, but we'd like to get somebody that will really utilize it to the fullest extent, so that we know what our speed bumps are going to be and what we need to do as we start to progress further with this desktop experience between a laptop, desktop, and a handheld device, both in the car and at the station. And I'll pass it on to my team now.
I can speak for a minute on this, Craig, just so that a lot of your agencies, I believe 7, we decided, working with Sandag, that it was best to reallocate the equipment funding directly to agencies, as we were having problems getting approval for implementing things into your cars, etc. So your contracts folks, or the person that Dale Stockton, our former mobile project manager, he worked with every agency to determine your needs and if you wanted to participate. So your grant, I've noticed that a few of your grant and contracts folks haven't spoken to your sergeants or whoever Dale was working with. So we just ask that maybe if I can help connect them, because we do have a tight deadline with this. Funds have to be spent by December. But most of the agencies pick to go with 2 to 4 DEX kits each, and these range from in-car to in-station. And then my colleague Lloyd, he had a really good idea, which was for us to procure test equipment for each of your agencies, so that we could spend a half day or so working through all of the things that we're finding with DEX. Lloyd, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but.
Yeah, so we have, as the slide says here, we have received those test kits, and they're actually designed to be taken back to the station to put on a bench to be tested by whoever in the department wants to participate in this as part of a pilot project. It's a proof of concept. So it's not like ARJIS is pushing this on anybody. We just want to allow you guys to participate and see how it works. And if it works for you in the future, then wonderful, we can move forward from there. If not, you can continue with your MDCs and keep going the way you're going. So with that, unless anybody else has any questions, maybe we'll pass it on to Eric.
Lloyd, let me just add on to that too. This is, again, as Lloyd talked about, it's, the bench test, if you will. We're looking at any software that you might have within the police department that would then access through this as well. It's really get in deep and test this thing. It might be your IT person. It might be your go-to person that likes to try on new technology, but we're really asking for you to get in there and, I don't say break it, but at least give it a real run for the money to see if this is something that's doable in the future.
And obviously the most important piece in terms of software is the CAD system. It has to have something that's supported on the Android devices and can be accessed that way. Otherwise it's useless in the field. So with that, I'll pass it on to Eric.
Is Eric here?
I thought I saw his name earlier.
So did I.
Hey, Lloyd, one question real quick. This is Ray Sweeney from La Mesa, but Is there a list? I see the agency names on there, and I'm not sure if we picked our stuff up to test it. So I want to make sure that that's done. Is there a way that you're going to reach out to different agencies to just to let us know?
Yeah, actually, we received 6 test kits, and they're in our storage room right now. And someday in the near future, we're going to pick a half day to have somebody from your agency come and pick up the equipment and learn, and maybe work with our developer Yang, who's actually working on this dexifying certain applications, and get an idea of how this works, because he actually has a bench test that he's been using for several months now to try and fix some of these little idiosyncrasies. And I see Eric is here now. Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And James, did you promote Eric? He was looking to get in. He couldn't speak. James,
He's
or
in as a panelist. I sent him a chat. I don't know if he's having some difficulty, but we're seeing him on the panelist list.
Okay, very good.
I see him. Are you
Yeah.
there, Eric? See
need to
him,
unmute.
can't hear him.
Is this for the most qualified person that can handle this stuff? No.
Oh,
All right, let's try that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. We can.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's just a quick update on the DEX pilot that we've been running here at CEPD since January of 2019. So just over 18 months now. We started with 2 vehicles. I'll make this brief and allow time for questions if there are any. 2 vehicles that we outfitted, and they've been running well. We recently, through not only part of the UASI funds that have been reallocated, but also from some of our own funding, as well as some donations from some partners that we're working closely with, expanded that pilot to now include 6 vehicles, as well as a number of in-station and also command post and SWAT equipment truck positions as well. So in total, closer to 14 systems. So it's the largest DEX pilot in law enforcement agency in the nation. And so because of that, we're getting great engagement with the partners that we need to be successful in the end. As we uncover issues, we'll experience gaps, things like that. I have been working deeply with Samsung, Motorola, because that's our CAD vendor, Microsoft, a number of other vendors that we use, sharing all of our lessons learned with ARJIS so that can be disseminated to the other teams. But point blank, I have a ton of feedback for any agency that's going to start working with DEX and trying it out to make sure that you benefit from our experience in this and what to do and what not to do. So I'd encourage you to have those respective people reach out to me, and we can have an in-depth discussion about what some of the pitfalls are and how to properly engage in this. It is as has been mentioned, this is a journey. I think this is an eventuality that we'll be using these mobile devices as our platforms for all computing needs in the future. This is not something that's going to be production ready in 6 months. So this is about getting engaged, finding out where your gaps are, reporting them to your vendors, and then based on their business cycle, you may see 2 or 3 updates per year that may address some of those, and it's just an iterative process. I'll stop there in case there's any questions.
Can I just add on to that real fast? As indicated, this is going to take a while to test, but it took a while for us to test TAC IDS and LPR and a lot of the other really innovative products that we've produced over the years. So I appreciate Chula Vista's support and kind of help us lead the way through this, because I do think it will be beneficial in the future, but if we don't start now, then we're going to be behind later on. So thank you, Eric and Chief Kennedy, for all that you all have been doing for this project, because I do see value in it. moving forward.
Absolutely.
And Chair, I just ask again that the agencies pick their most critical person that wants to try to make this thing work, and not somebody that's been forced upon. I think this is going to be the beginning of, as Eric kind of indicated, this is the journey. And if we hit this correctly, I think we'll shave some time off that timeline and make this a great project.
Okay, we will definitely mention that in the Chiefs and Sheriffs meeting today. And are there any comments from members of the public on this item?
No hands raised for this item.
Any more management committee member comments? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to item number 8 on our agenda, an update on the August 18 Business Working Group meeting. Katie Mugg will do the presentation.
Good morning again. The business working group met on August 18th. It was via a Teams meeting. The primary discussion was on the ARJIS work plan, which you all know, or maybe you know, we do annually. So we provided an update on 23 projects. And it looks like we're going to be developing the work plan in December this year versus around now, just because of the changes that we've had and we're having in our organization. We'd really like to take a deep dive into what's important to you all. So we discussed that. There was an update on a new page for crime analysts to use via our ARJIS Net, the main homepage, law enforcement only, for all of your officers. It's going to be focused primarily on crime analysis and being able to talk and share information. We also discussed the ONS rewrite. That's going to be coming to you all soon. We're hoping to deploy that in December. So I think most of you, or no, you may or may not be aware that we had to rewrite our ONS and our surfers applications, and our programmers are working around the clock to make that happen. So I believe at the next meeting, depending on UASI, or the following meeting, we'll be bringing that to you all for input and approval to move forward with the ONS rollout. We discussed some really data intensive things about Macker and new beats for El Cajon, and some other NIBRS related topics. We actually have a NIBRS working group meeting tomorrow. And the next BWG meeting is October 20th, and it will probably be Zoom or Teams or whatever platform we see is best at the time. That's it.
Thank you, Katie. Are there any comments from members of the public on this item?
No comments on this item.
Any comments from management committee members? All right, seeing none, we're nearing the end of our agenda. I'll open it up one more time for any comments from committee members. All right, well, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. This brings us to item number 9. The next management committee member meeting is currently scheduled for Wednesday, October 7, 2020 at 9:45 a.m. And that brings us to our adjournment. So thank you everyone for attending today.
Thank you, Chair.
you.